From our 22 News Broadcast Center, this is 22 News in Focus.
Good Sunday afternoon and welcome to 22 News in Focus. I'm Barry Krieger. Unemployment is at historical lows across the country as well as here in Western Massachusetts. And while this is generally considered a good thing, it means fewer candidates for available jobs. Employers are having trouble hiring trained, qualified workers from manufacturing to health and medicine and technology sectors. Jobs for skilled workers are on the rise, but it is a job trying to find the people to fill those jobs. Workforce development is a growing sector and a growing approach to economic development. The idea is to enhance a region's economic stability and prosperity by focusing on education and training and matching people with the employees who need those skills. Now, developing a strategy can help ensure a steady flow of qualified employees. So what's being done to help employers find those workers and to help workers find employment that meets the ever-changing technology and workforce demands? Well, to address these questions and talk about workforce development and modern workforce technology programs offered at Springfield Technical Community College, we have with us today Gerardo Zayas Jr., Assistant Vice President of the STC Workforce Development Center. Next to him, we have Gary Mascadrelli, who chairs the Mechanical Engineering Technology Program. Gary Mullet, we have two Garys with us. Gary Mullet is Department Co-Chair of Electronic Systems Engineering Technology, and Doctors Lisa Rapp, Chair of the Biotechnology Program, and Jeffrey Cooper, who chairs the Biomedical Engineering Technology Program. Now, before we talk about where the jobs are, first, please tell us a little bit about yourselves. What is workforce development?
Sure. Thank you, Barry. My name is Gerardo Zayas, and I oversee the Workforce Development Center at Springfield Technical Community College. Our responsibility is to kind of look into the community and look at it for some two-prong approach. We typically look at what does the employer need and what does the community want, and try to somewhere in the middle come up with a bridge to kind of create a pathway. I tell people that workforce development isn't just about helping people get jobs, it's about helping people start career pathways. And we are luckily enough, or very fortunate enough, to kind of offer different pathways. We have, as you stated in your opening, healthcare, advanced manufacturing. We also have IT, information technology. We have language in the workplace sectors. We have a number of over 14 different portfolios within our system of Workforce Development Center at STIC. The trainings are pretty affordable. They go from anywhere from $200 to $200 up until about $3,000, depending on the pathway and depending on the amount of time. Some of the trainings can take anywhere from 20 hours up to 150 hours. So there's an eclectic option for individuals.
Yeah, for training for a career path, this sounds pretty affordable, though, which is what STCC is about.
That's what it's about. Quality, it's about affordability, and it's about connecting. I mean, we also help with individuals to connect them with internships as well as job placements, and that's very important. You can have a great workforce training, but if you don't have that hook to kind of go into the community of industry, that becomes an issue. So how do we fix that issue? And it's being able to reach out into those particular industries and say, hey, when our students come through either workforce or graduate with a degree, as many of our colleagues here will talk about when they have the conversation, is we want them to be able to be work ready, and that means hit the ground running. And I think the workforce is just another different option or access point into the world of academia.
Right, and we should talk about that. STCC, the T in STCC is for technology. And Gary Mascadrelli, that's part of where you come in, is it not?
Yeah, exactly. My program is Mechanical Engineering Technology. And in the program, we offer the students all aspects of what manufacturing companies are looking for. You know, that is the design of product. And now you move on, have that product created in manufacturing, and this is where computer-driven machinery comes into effect. And then finally is quality control, which ties everything together. I'm sure everybody's heard of ISO 9000 as our students go out there and they're ready to hit the ground running, and really any one of those three areas, and they've all had success in those areas.
All right, we're talking about preparing people for careers. Gary Mullet, co-chair of the Electronic Systems Engineering Technology. How does that work in?
Well, we actually have a group of technologies. The electronics program is one of the legacy technologies that was there when the school originally started. We also grant degrees in computer systems engineering technology, and another option is optics and photonics. It used to be called laser electro-optics technology, but the name has changed recently. So our students get 2-year associate's degrees, or they can get certificates and go out and work in industry.
Excellent. Dr. Lisa Rapp, you're part of the biotechnology program. Tell me about that at STCC.
Sure, it's a little bit different type, and it's not technology in the way that a lot of these other different programs are, but biotechnology is, in general, using a living thing to produce a product that helps people, and that product may be a pharmaceutical medicine, that may be a biofuel, that may be helping in the clothing industry, in fact, in just manufacture of certain clothing. So our program is designed to help students get jobs in local industry and in industry across the state.
Yeah, this is all about getting careers, more than just the, even though the minimum wage is going up, we're looking for people that, looking for positions that will help people get much more than just the minimum wage. Jeffrey Cooper, excuse me, is it Dr. Jeffrey Cooper?
No, just Jeff Cooper.
Okay, now you're part of the biomedical engineering technology program. How does that work into what we're doing today?
The biomedical engineering technology program is our vehicle for preparing people for pathways that lead to the diagnostic equipment and the treatment equipment that you'll find in hospitals, doctors' offices, throughout the medical environment. And, you know, all the kind of infrastructure around how that has to be maintained, how it has to be safe and effective and up to date. And so we burrow in a bit to the technologies because there's a great explosion of new technologies in instruments for diagnosing or instruments for treating people. And you know, we wear some of them on our wrists sometimes, or you'll see an article about some kind of a patch that can, you know, sense vital signs and that sort of thing. So we're opening up to a pretty dynamic, you know, environment, and there's a need. You know, our community, Springfield is great at seeing these needs and wanting to participate with educational institutions and saying, hey, we really could use people with these kind of skills in these kind of areas. And so we're blessed by that as well.
Well, talking about those needs, the strategy for workforce development has been gaining momentum. And I guess STCC is in the right place at the right time for this, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that part of it is, like you were saying earlier, we're a technical community college, and I think obviously we're a community college, but leaning into that technical is very important. I think that part of, and the historical piece is, yes, people knew about a community college, but we're the only technical community college in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Let's lean further into that, and I know they've had conversations. Yeah, so I think that's a big deal. So I think we're very fortunate, and we're aligned with the non-credit to the credit side to say, let's build that pathway, to build new pathways for students to come into STCC.
And obviously you offer a range of programs. Which industries locally are seeing the greatest needs for workers here in Western Massachusetts?
I think it's pretty much across the board, everywhere from Smith & Wesson locally. The UTC companies have been gobbling up our students. Pratt & Whitney, their businesses, they're seeing their business not changing for the next 20-odd years, and they're looking for more and more people. They run a internship program for our students every summer, and most of them end up signing in full-time after that. And if Pratt & Whitney is busy, that means all the smaller companies that do business for them are also busy as well. And so they're also gobbling up our students as well.
Yeah, okay. One other thing, what are the employment trends that are predicted for the future here in Western Massachusetts? What's trending? What's working? What's going to work down the road?
I think one of the staples is healthcare is always one that's a staple. That's not going anywhere. I do believe that that's a strong impact with regards to not just beginner jobs, not just jobs that you're coming in as the entry level, but there's so many pathways and lattices that one can take to kind of go from being a registration person to all the way to CEO and everything in between. And I think the healthcare sector really does allow that. If the person wants it and hungry enough, they can actually do it. If they have the right mentors, if they have the right trainings. And I think part of it is making sure they have the right skill set, making sure they have the right hunger in order to kind of just be. And healthcare has a lot of venues to do that.
I'm going to want to address some of those places where we're going to be placing people who are what we're training them for at STCC. And when we come back, we'll explore how technical programs and training programs are meeting the demand for trained workers here in Western Massachusetts. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about workforce development here in Western Massachusetts and the programs offered at Springfield Technical Community College. STCC has been educating students of all ages in dozens of technical and vocational programs for more than a half-century. Let's start off once again with Gerardo Zayas. What kind of training is available through STCC's workforce development program?
Sure. If you have a person who might have expressed interest in, say, healthcare and not quite sure, we have a certified nursing assistant program that brings a person in. It's about 12 weeks. It's covered by WIOA, because the thing with workforce is people have to pay out of pocket, but they're eligible for a lot of funding in order to help pay for these particular
grants,
trainings.
financial aid, or
absolutely more the grant side. Financial aid is more on the credit side. They're not eligible. However, there is money out there. We have a foundation. We have WIOA funding as well. And part of it is, so a certified nursing assistant, a lot of people know it as a CNA.
Yeah.
It's the position that, you know, really works with individuals, typically at home health aid industries, nursing homes. These are individuals who care for help people walk.
You've been talking about how healthcare
Correct.
is a growing field and is one of the trending fields.
Correct.
And doesn't seem to be slowing down, especially people my generation.
Correct.
The baby boomers, we're availing ourselves more and more of the need for healthcare.
Yes.
And as it's coming up, the people from the next generation, the people that are helping us out.
Correct.
So you're training those following generations.
Correct. And I mean, again, people want to stay in homes. They want to stay homes longer. Most people don't want to give up their home because they can't afford, or they not necessarily can't afford it, but they can't do it functionally. So CNAs are the types of positions that will go in and help the individual manage the house, so to speak, or manage the grounds, which is really important because it does preserve this dignity with the individual who, as we age, because we all do, how do we kind of keep that composure and dignity of, I want to stay home? A person like a CNA does come into your home and kind of help you stay there. So it's a very important piece, and it could start a pathway. And this is just hands-on, very early on into a pathway.
Now, there's a very human and humane aspect to what you're training people to do.
Correct.
In this aspect. How long do some of these trainings take in your various programs? Gary?
Well, the classic degree at the college is 2 years. However, through workforce development, they could have special contracts, which could take, from months to, whatever the particular company needs. But the interesting thing is a lot of what's going on out there is companies used to be able to do the training of their employees. Well, they don't want to do that anymore. So that's why they're looking to colleges like STCC to help develop that for them.
All right.
We also have certificate programs that take a year.
Right.
So, you may have a worker who's been not misplaced, but displaced, and it turns out they can come back, and there are some state programs that actually pay for them to come back and do a year's worth of work, which will get them a certificate. So they don't take much of the general education courses, take more of the technical courses.
Yeah,
So
get those skills updated.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
You get a 2-year degree or a certificate. Is there also some licensing that can happen through STCC training?
There can. There's not licensing in my particular program, so it is a 2-year program, although there are two paths. So there's a career track in the associate's degree and a transfer track. So some students are looking to continue their education, might get the 2-year degree and transfer on to a school like UMass. And then about half of my students are just looking for direct employment, so they'll go through the career track of the program and look for jobs as a lab technician or quality control technician in an area company.
So can you tell me can you name some of the companies around here that where your students may advance to once
Sure.
they
So
get their
Avista
associates?
is over in Agawam, and they've been a major employer of my graduates. And there's a newer company called Berkshire Sterile Manufacturing in Lee, Massachusetts, that's sort of up and coming, and that's where I'm hoping a lot of my students will go. I've had a few graduates go there.
Outstanding. And you, sir?
Well, we certainly have target hospitals, in Springfield, and Bay State would be the predominant example of that. But also, it's pretty diverse as far as medical technologies. There are actually some startup companies around the area that have to go through the FDA acceptance of whatever technology they're developing. But this area has, the traditional service-based industries. It has manufacturing industries, and it has innovation industries as well. So, we're obviously desiring to put as much flexibility into our students as possible, because we don't know in 5 years, what the next, what be they medical or optical or mechanical, instruments and assemblies are going to be, being made and demanding people, to run those machines.
And I understand the difficulty in making those predictions, because the employment universe changes so quickly and has changed so quickly. I mean, the jobs that were lost 10 years ago aren't coming back. Everything's different these days. You touched on something a little while ago about the cost and about grants. What kind of financial aid is available to students who want to get on these career paths through workforce development?
Right, so there's the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act, which is WIOA.
You get a lot of acronyms.
Yeah,
you have
that's
to
why I have to
remember.
sorry. Yeah, so WIOA is a big funder that typically targets individuals who are underemployed or unemployed, that they're looking to kind of make that transition and let's try a new pathway. That's a very viable funding source for individuals. We also have some other funding sources, such as foundations. Sometimes private foundations will allow us to have a little pot of money on the side to kind of have scholarships for workforce. There are not many at this time, but that doesn't mean we don't want to ramp that up to get more, because I think part of it is being able to affordability and accessibility.
Right, and the whole concept of community college is its
Correct.
affordability.
Correct.
And it's even a way, and you kind of touched on this as well, that you can get your associate's degree at the community college level and then move on to get your 4-year degree without paying for 4 years of tuition at a 4-year school.
Correct.
Do you have, what is the percentage of your students you say that are doing that, would you say?
Well, I think that if we want to talk about the transfer programs, I think that is a nice way where people do save a lot of money, where you're getting a 4-year degree. If you decide to go to another 4-year school, you're paying half of that because the tuition is, our affordability is, as far as education, is a lot more affordable. Quality, it doesn't lose quality, it's just a shorter time period. And I think community colleges, for the longest time, it's been, oh, it's a community college, where now that pendulum has swung the other side, and it's like, oh, it's a community college, because it makes dollars and cents to parents.
To parents. I'm
Especially.
a parent with 2 sons currently enrolled at STCC, and it's saved us a ton of money.
How about that?
In terms of then it's more affordable for them to go on to the next step after they finish. You asked about a number. I actually am not sure. I know in my program, about half of my graduates transfer, half are looking for direct employment. Does anyone have a sense of overall at STIC what percentage of students?
I know we're about 25%, I would say.
Of in your program?
Yeah, although it's going to change for us, because we've just entered into a partnership with Northeastern University, where our students, after graduating in 2 years, can now pursue a bachelor's degree through Northeastern University on the STCC campus.
How does that work?
Well, their faculty actually, come to the college and actually teach, on our campus. It's set up as an evening program. What they're expecting is people who are working for a living are now going to want to come to school at night. It's a reduced tuition as compared to regular Northeastern University. It's roughly about $30,000 to complete the 2-year degree. They offer a degree in advanced manufacturing, which is more of a self-paced, project-driven program. And we're also going to offer a degree in mechanical engineering technology as well. So it's a great opportunity for our students to move on to higher ed.
Years ago, Northeastern University used to be on the trimester, where you would go to school for a couple of semesters, then you'd work for a semester. Right. So now they've extended their opportunities out to Western Massachusetts.
Correct. It's an entirely new program, right?
That's good to know.
Yes, it's very good.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to get back to more on that. So what types of community partnerships are involved with workforce development? We will look at how that makes the process successful after the break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. People need to earn a living wage, and that often takes some specialized training. And if qualified candidates don't exist, they can be created. And today we're talking about workforce development and how it supports an improving economy. Recently, the National Science Foundation awarded a 4-year, $1.1 million grant to STCC to enhance their science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education in Springfield Public Schools. I want to ask our panel how that partnership is helping with workforce training. Gary?
Yeah, actually, STIC has a very long history of being successful getting NSF grants. About 20 years now, we have been receiving grants, and Beth has been successful working with Smith College, and her initiatives usually are trying to get women and minorities into the STEM field, since usually they're underrepresented. And she's recently applied to, again, the NSF and received this grant. And I know Beth is very good at drumming up business for, STEM, and she's very good at, getting young women and minorities to come into those fields. So it's a 4-year grant, and I'm sure she's partnered with probably Smith again, and we'll do a good job with that.
And while we're always hearing about STEM, science, technology, yes, and all this, this is what workforce development is all about, is it
right.
not?
Well, it turns out that people look at the statistics, and there haven't been as many people going into STEM fields, as well as the fact that, again, women and minorities usually don't go into those fields. I know Gary and I, for years, in either electronics or mechanical, we find that the women do not gravitate towards those fields, mostly male dominated. And again, today there's many jobs, and you would like to take and get everyone involved.
Are we doing anything to encourage women to get involved in STEM?
Oh yeah, we actually have a STEM Starter Academy at STIC this summer. We have another grant. It was a 3-year grant for, I think, $3 million that their office is next to mine, and they're a STEM workforce development also. So they actually will go out into the community and talk to the middle schools and the high schools and so forth, and even I think down at maybe the 6th grade or 5th grade, trying to get people into the STEM fields. But it's just exposing the people to the STEM fields, what the opportunities are.
It is sort of a raising awareness thing,
yes,
but I'm wondering, like, how receptive are high school kids to hearing about this? How much are kids thinking about their career path in high school? What are you seeing in that?
Well, it turns out that kids are just we were 50 years ago, and turns out they don't think about it too much. But if you give them interesting things to do, this morning there was a drone demonstration, I think, on the green, and things like that with bells and whistles and flashing lights and so forth sometimes capture their imagination and can get them into thinking about what they might want to do later on.
Yeah, we work directly with the high schools too. We have a lot of articulation agreements where high school kids can earn credit for our courses while being in high school, and I think that's a big help. There's dual enrollment as well, where students can come to the college and take math and English and courses like that at night through that program. And I think there's just a lot of, one of the biggest things I find for exposure is a lot of times if a student has a relative, a parent or a relative that's been involved in the situation. I know that there's been several women that have just graduated of our program where the parent was involved in manufacturing in some degree, and that kind of becomes a springboard to get the student interested in the program.
And manufacturing doesn't mean what it used to mean anymore. It's not like a
No,
factory
not at all.
job.
Right.
It's far more technical.
Very, it's all technology driven, all of it.
Now, a lot of the technical jobs do require, you talked about dual enrollments, but also there are internships and apprenticeships. Tell me how that applies to STCC.
Sure. I mean, we've had this internship program called Learn to Earn, and what we usually do is we reach out to the manufacturing organizations in the Merrimack Valley, in the Pioneer Valley. It's the wrong valley. Sorry, I need another cup of
50
water.
miles east.
50 miles east, right. So what we end up doing is we end up reaching out to these organizations and the need for help now. We always talk about, the generation that's retiring and the void that's going out the window. The experience, the expertise is going out the window. Part of what we really try to focus on is, let's approach this in 2 ways. Let's try to get people interested, and through the internships is definitely one of them. And the internships, they're hurting so bad for individuals in the field, they're willing to actually give them part-time paid internships. They are willing to actually work around their school schedules. This is in the world that we, all programs here, are living in right now with students at STCC, that we have big companies that say, yes, we want to help out, and yes, we want to place them.
What are some of those companies that are offering these paid
I
internships?
have a student this summer that was hired through the Learn to Earn program, and this is at Eurofin Spectrum Analytical over in Agawam. So they're primarily an environmental testing company, but it's the same kind of lab technician skills that my students have that are able to help my students help that company over the summer. And we're hoping to expand that. So they took 2 interns this summer, and we're hoping to scale that up.
Yeah.
In the optics and photonics area, we have numerous contacts with various local companies, and IPG, for instance, out in Oxford, Mass, I believe, has several people who are interns, as well as we have people down at, well, it's now changed the name, which escapes me at the time, Coherent, and it used to be
the
Newfern.
company's changed
Used to
the
be
name, and
Newfern.
you have to think.
They got bought out and then they changed the name, yep.
And a lot of those people, they'll be an intern, and then when they graduate, they're offered a job directly.
Yeah.
Now, how do the internships work? Do they go to school a couple of days a week and they go to work a few days a week, or is it on a semester basis? How does that work?
Whatever meets their schedule during the academic year, and then when the summer rolls along, they'll work full-time in the summer.
Yeah.
And some of the companies have second shifts, so they can take and accommodate that.
Right, who needs sleep, right?
Yeah, right.
What's great
Overrated.
about the internship programs is that it puts the finishing wrap on the soft skills and the professionalism, because as the
Can
student
you help me with soft skills? What is that?
the kind of skills that for communicating in the workplace, all the things that go from punctuality and preparedness to how to document something, how to communicate a problem.
How do you write a professional email, even?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you solve a problem?
I was going to say how to write a sentence.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
How to be a part of a team. Nowadays, everything that's done is too big for one person, and so team membership, team interworking is really just key. If you don't have it, if you don't have a good chemistry in your company, you'll get past. And,
So you are teaching technical skills, but you're also teaching skills to become a good coworker, a solid coworker that can be depended upon. Communication is key to everything, isn't it?
yeah.
There's even a soft skills course on campus. There's a requirement of my program. So.
Yeah, a lot of our courses will require the students to get up and give a little presentation, which a lot of them don't want to do.
Of course they don't.
And on the workforce side, on the workforce development side, a lot of our trainings actually embed these types of problem solving. Let's give a real scenario and let's kind of tackle it in the field in which they're studying. So that's part of the curriculum itself. So we want to make sure that when the person finishes, that they actually finish with, yes, I have a certificate, but more important, I know how to apply that certificate, and I know how to make sure I get the job, keep the job, grow in the job. That's really important.
Grow in the job.
Yeah.
What did you say, growing in the job?
Grow in the
Grow
job.
in the job. Being a continual self-learner is almost a motto at STIC. You want to learn how to learn, because it's just like we said, in 5 years it's all different. And
Technology changes so rapidly, it's very hard to give up.
Yeah, what kind of feedback are you hearing from local employers who hire your students?
Go ahead.
Well,
Positive,
Go ahead.
I think.
Yeah,
And
it's very
even
positive.
I've definitely heard sometimes with my associate degree students are there, and I've heard from the employer that, in fact, they're more prepared than some of those students with the 4-year degree,
How about
which
that?
I always like hearing.
Yeah. There's
It's
always
something
the element
like-
of, as you said, learn to learn, on-the-job training.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, okay, now you've got your certificate, now you've got your training, now let's learn how to do this.
But all of our programs are very hands-on
Yes.
in a way that sometimes a 4-year degree is not, and so that's an
They tend
advantage.
to be more theoretical. Our
Right.
programs are more hands-on, and they really get to the technology. So quite frankly, all of our students, they can hit the ground running and be productive. Right on day one, they can be productive.
And I have to say, when I go to some of the sites, the industry sites, there's never been a time where we go to a site, and there's never been a time where someone from that site isn't or hasn't been a STCC student. It's
That's true.
fascinating,
It really
and I've
is.
never seen anything like it in my whole career.
And validating and gratifying. I imagine, as
Absolutely,
well.
in every industry, in the healthcare, in advanced manufacturing, utility, all of them. I went to STIC, and they're very proud. It's like a badge of honor.
Uh-huh.
And All the time. It never fails.
I'm getting excited about it.
We are. We're definitely passionate about it.
Well, a well-trained workforce contributes to a strong economy. We will have that discussion right after the break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. And welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about workforce development and programs offered by STCC for the jobs of the future in our region. The Baker administration strongly supports workforce development programs to help fill the many tech jobs that are opening up in Massachusetts. This past June, Governor Baker announced job creation incentives for 23 Massachusetts life sciences companies. I'd like to talk about the incentive programs that the state offers to help with workforce development. How does that work? How are they incentivizing students and incentivizing the schools to incentivize students?
That's a big, tall glass of water.
Say one example, so there's the Massachusetts Life Science Center
Yes,
has
correct.
provided 2 large grants, actually I think 3 large grants to STCC that provide us with equipment so that we can offer state-of-the-art
There you
training.
go.
So that's been very helpful for my program and for his
Our
program.
program has leaned, our dean has searched that out and found that to be a great match for, building the program and having an attractiveness for students to see it in place and, sign up.
Gary, was it 2 years ago we got the grant from the Massachusetts Development for the high-powered lasers, I think?
Yeah, it was. It was
2 years ago. So it was
Right.
about $500,000.
That's right.
And we got 3
Yeah.
high-powered lasers, because lasers are used extensively now in advanced manufacturing. And we can cut materials now, etch materials and so forth. I think the highest power one we haven't worked with yet, because that's kind of a dangerous one. It's actually like a 1,000-watt laser.
It's all up, coming up to speed.
Yeah.
All of that is.
You could write your signature on the moon with that one, right?
Yes, yes.
And we got 1.2 million 5 years ago to expand our program with more machinery, more state-of-the-art machinery. And
I'm hearing that there's a lot of support for tech education,
From
From the state, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
which is gratifying to know, and that you guys are putting it to work the right way. There was something we talked about during the break that I want to bring up, that how you help your students who are involved in these internships to get to work. How does that work?
Yes, so the Workforce Development Center has a Work to Ride program, and what this is a allocated amount of money that was donated from our foundation to workforce development, and the intent is that when we work with students to place them in internships, we have many different types of students.
Because not every student has a car.
Correct, and the public transportation, it's great, but there's some issues there.
Right.
So what we've done is we've been able to use this allocated funds for the first 3 weeks of their internship placement, we help them by providing Uber rides to the job. And the Uber comes and picks them up at the school site, and it drops them off at work. Not in between, not a pit stop. We want to make sure that people understand the importance of getting to work on time, talking about the soft skills that we mentioned.
Yeah.
Being able to kind of understand the importance of getting to work.
And the
that's a
school
barrier.
pays for the Uber ride.
The foundation of the school
Yep.
donated the money, and that's something brand new because we were hearing it when we were meeting with our students. Why didn't you get there? Because I can't. Either the buses didn't run the right time.
Yeah.
It's the route that you have to go from one city to the next city to get to down the street. There were issues. So this has been very helpful, and this is hopefully the beginning of a longer, bigger program.
Just more evidence of this tremendous support that you're giving your students, that STCC is actually getting too, from the state and from this foundation.
Yes.
What is this foundation? It's the STCC Foundation?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And that's funded by donations and
Yeah, separate entity within the school all by itself, and they deal with a lot of our funders, our donators. We have the big building, the Learning Commons that's coming up. How many million? Tens of millions of dollars in our new building that's opening up in the fall. Those types, they help out with trying to raise funds with regards to.
Careful, you get so big, you won't be a community college anymore.
No, come on now. we're community at best.
Do you see opportunity for your students to become entrepreneurs within these developing fields? Do you see that happening? For people starting their own businesses?
If not starting their own businesses, then being in those, say for a 2-year degree, certainly being in that cluster of people that gets a startup going and is able to make something happen by Tuesday, which is so important in the innovation space. Can we get a demo up and running? Can we do this thing? Who's going to hook this thing up, or who's going to fabricate this thing, or whatever. STIC can produce the people that can make something happen by Tuesday, and that's for a startup, that's huge.
And I also want to add to that. So the majority of our students, there's traditional and there's non-traditional. And what that just basically means is your non-traditional students are the ones who are working full-time and coming to us part-time. Over 60% of our students are non-traditional. So these are people in the workforce already. So they're coming in the door with ready to work. We're just trying to help them enhance to get that certificate, to get that degree, in order to kind of, again, start that pathway, to start the lattice.
These are serious students. These aren't just kids coming in to try and pass the course, just get a C and get by. They're there for a purpose.
Correct.
You mentioned entrepreneurial. Jeff's not telling the whole story here. He actually runs a club on campus where it's makers. You may have heard the maker movement, where people take and put things together and try to make projects and so forth.
This is something that's important for our outreach to middle and high school students, is that to rekindle that sort of let's try to build something, and let's get exposed to these tools and see what can be done. There's a vibrant re-emergent do-it-yourself community, whether it be electronic or mechanical or medical. Yeah, you want to be careful. But this is a great sign, because it means people are triggering and causing and starting to be the drivers of this thing, and that's really hopeful for sending us people who already know a little bit about how a system might go together, and the flow of something and the problems associated with something. It's just a great experience that's happening.
Yeah, I can see where it'd be very validating for the students to actually, as you call it, make something and make something work.
You'll see these places, I think they're going to start happening around, called maker spaces. And there'll be a place, they might have a few tools and things, and it's a great way to reach out to the community. Our intellectual gifts are strewn all throughout Pioneer Valley and Springfield, and this is the way that we will mine them and turn the lights on and get some good things going.
It all returns to the STEM idea.
There you go. I know from this business, broadcast business, or cablecast, whatever we are these days, I know that employee retention is everything, and you kind of always have to be on the lookout for something called brain drain, where the graduates leave the area. You kind of want to keep them here. How are you trying to avoid brain drain?
I don't know if we actually have that at STIC. My experience, and I've been at STIC probably longer than anyone else in the panel here, is that most of the people who graduate from Springfield Technical Community College like to stay in the area. We have people come from Chicago and try to recruit some of our optics and photonics students, and the response I get from the students is, "Oh, I don't want to move to Chicago. Great jobs and so forth," but they tend to want to stay in the area, which you kind of wish there was more industry that would employ them in this area. Although it seems like we're getting more of those companies.
I'm one of those guys. I went to UMass 50 years ago. I haven't left. I'm not from this area.
Well, the majority of our students, they all live within an 8-mile radius from our school.
Yeah.
And they stay.
And they do stay.
They do stay. Yeah. Even after successfully getting the job that they want.
I'm a promoter. I'm a cheerleader for Western Massachusetts.
Absolutely.
This place is a gem. They don't know about it, the eastern part of the state. That's okay. Life is good here.
It is.
Very true.
All right, well, up next, we find out what the hot jobs are and how you can train for them. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we've been talking about workforce development and training programs at STCC. So we're going to talk about the hot jobs for the future in our region. What are they?
I believe advanced manufacturing is truly an up-and-coming field, and a lot of people will not realize what is that.
What is advanced manufacturing? We have the train car maker
Yes.
that came to Springfield,
Yes,
CRRC.
right, correct.
Now, that's they're making train cars, but they're not the old train cars of old, are they?
Correct. I know Gary could talk a little bit more about advanced manufacturing. However, I know when they came, the students that, was it the 5 students that they hired that they sent to China?
They sent to
Was it-
China
was
for
it-
training. Yeah,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
it's a big deal. So
A lot of assembly and quality that was involved with that. You know, and Barry, you had said it earlier that people don't realize how much manufacturing has changed. It is no longer, you know, dirty and greasy and all that stuff. It's you go into these companies now and everything is polished, everything is clean, everything's computer driven. It's much different, and the precision that you can work for. I mean, we have a student at a small place in Westfield, Peerless Precision, and they work to like a millionth of an inch. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating to watch what happens there, and that is the requirement for a lot of aerospace products and that kind of
And
stuff.
even the tools you would use to measure that millionths of an inch, you need training to learn how to use those tools.
Exactly.
Not just to
Yes.
actually cut your whatever you're trying
Yes.
to manufacture. It's amazing.
It is.
There are some
Yeah.
terms. I just came back from a conference, and Industry 4.0, the fourth revolution of the Industrial Revolution, is a term of manufacturing 4.0, which some people, talk about as advanced manufacturing. A lot of this is predicated on our computers, our internet access, and so forth. And there's a term, the Internet of Things, which is I'm fond of. And it turns out that in our area, in electronics, we teach a lot of that. We try to keep up to date with what's going on.
Everything's connected.
Yep.
Isn't it?
And in our biomedical technology, the pumps are connected, the patient monitors are connected, the tracking and the dispensing of medicines and or the manufacturing of those things is all connected. People can track how the process is going and make sure the quality is what they want to deliver.
A lot of companies run what they call lights out manufacturing. They might set up over the weekend machines running. No one's there, but the machines have the ability, if something goes wrong, they know the person to get in touch with. It's incredible, actually.
Call the robot.
Yes, that's right.
The technology is driving things. You mentioned people wanting to stay in their homes. You have e-healthcare, where you actually have monitors and sensors and so forth that allow people to stay longer in their homes. Of course, the internet allows that to happen, and advanced microcomputers and so forth, embedded controllers. Automobiles have upwards to 40% of the cost of an automobile is electronics today.
That?
The autonomous cars are coming.
Yeah, we keep hearing about AI, artificial intelligence.
Well, that's a new buzzword, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm not sure I know what that is, but I think it's involved in the autonomous
yeah.
vehicles and everything else as well.
Yeah.
Now, is
All enabled by the Internet of Things.
Of course, are there well-paying jobs available here in Western Massachusetts?
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think a person, I'll use advanced manufacturing. If a person comes in with sometimes with a certificate, you can start off with a job and making around 60 to 70 a year. That could be the entry point. That's not the end point. I want to be real
Coming
clear.
out of community college.
Coming out of a certificate program at a community college. Sometimes what ends up happening is an adult leaves, they don't go to school for a long time, and you start kind of feeling, I'm not sure if I can do that. So you take the opportunity, try a certificate program, because that's putting your foot in the water. Sometimes it takes just that. Wow, I did really well at the certificate program, and now I'm landing this job that pays me 60 to 65, and oh wow, I'm at this job, and I like that position, that next move. Oh, I need a degree.
Another one.
Oh, now I'm going to go back and get my degree. So it truly does it's a stackable credential thing. That's what I like to call it. And we have it, and it's there, and it's affordable. And it's great because all our departments are touchstones of one another. And think about advanced manufacturing, you have IT in there as well, because everything that runs is by IT. Healthcare, you have IT, biomed, they all kind of interconnect. And I think we're very fortunate that as a technical community college, we have soup to nuts from the basic to the most advanced in a shorter period of time. And that's what we like to do, is get things done. We live in a society that get it done quickly. The younger you are, the quicker you want it. And I'm saying, well, we're the answer to that. And a lot of people don't realize that yet. And I think that's an understatement.
This is an historic time for manufacturing jobs or any kind of technology related jobs. You can just tell by the economic weather, if you will. These companies really want to get this done. And so now's, boy, there isn't a better time to strike out for this stuff if you want to find a job than the environment that's out there right now.
Yeah, at the top of the program, I was mentioning how low the unemployment rate is, which is a good thing for the economy, but at the same time, it means that the employers are looking for a skilled workforce. They don't necessarily have them. This is where you guys come in.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's really looking at the incumbents, right? You want to retain your employees. So how do you do that? You invest in them.
Yep.
You train them, and there's a feel of commitment. That's what we're about.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning that all of our programs, the curriculum has been designed in collaboration with industry. So we have industry input telling us what are the things that are up and coming and current that we need to
What do
be
they
teaching.
need? How do you fill the need?
Exactly that.
Yes.
Exactly that. And that's been really helpful to me. And it's constantly changing. The program changes all the time to make sure you're keeping current.
And it's great when we have our graduates who are working come back into our advisory board. And
Oh, yeah,
it's-
yeah.
you really get that feedback. Well, you know, this course, well, you might want to do this.
Yes.
So it's good feedback.
Yeah.
Daystate and Diagnostic Equipment Service Company have just given us their time, you know, to help us shape our program so it's ready for students to come out of it and be the right candidates that they're looking for. You know, they're very generous with their time and with their expertise to review a lot of things and make suggestions. And really, you know, this industry is a partner. You know, they're not just out there waiting. They're reaching in.
School starts pretty soon. When's the cutoff date for registration? Anybody know that?
We could have late registration up until the week before school starts itself on September 4th. So that last week of August, we can register up until September 4th as well, or sometimes September 5th, because people have this thing called life, right? So yeah, it starts September 4th as the new semester starts. People can register right before then. They obviously strongly encourage before then, but we're not going to say no.
Yeah. What if they need financial aid? They want to get started a little sooner. than
A
that,
little
right?
sooner, yes. Right, actually, they come to the campus now because our financial aid officers know that this is the time that they ramp up. On the last 2 weeks, they stay open later than normal, so people can come in with questions and help.
And that's one of the other things is that community college, especially Springfield Technical Community College, is a bargain compared to the people that are graduating from these four-year colleges with mountains of education debt. Here you're actually ready to step into a career with minimal debt, I would think, or maybe none, who knows?
Very minimal.
Very minimal.
Well, I've learned something today, and I thank you for taking the time to be with us today. This was great.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
And,
Yes, thank
and I hope we've exposed a lot of people to what's going on at STCC. We'll have a last word for you right after the break. This is 22 News in Focus. We're back to 22 News in Focus. Today, we talked about workforce development in Western Massachusetts and the programs offered at Springfield Technical Community College. That is our program for today, and we want to thank our guests who joined us today from STCC's Workforce Development Center and the various technical training departments. And thanks to you for watching from home. If you missed any part of today's program, you can watch it in its entirety on our website at wwlp.com. From all of us here at 22 News, we wish you a wonderful Sunday.